in terms of the hub model, it's being used as a bit of a term at the moment, and it may be one way in which delivery can be improved going forward. Thanks, Kay. The generic hub model is I think, it's a wraparound service basically. It's you go to a particular place. Obviously, during the pandemic, it was via phone or email or whatever, but increasingly it will obviously become face to face as we move on. But it's a place you go to where there's a real wraparound service. Now, to be honest, a number of Christian charities and other VCSE groups have been operating this model for many, many years. So, and you may well have operated this anyway. But I think it's just come to the fore a bit, really, during the crisis. It's a wraparound service. It's easy to help people, hopefully. It may well have one major doorway into it. So it may be a food grocery that's opened up, but doesn't just provide a food grocery, it actually provides other services as well. It may be a well-being cafe or whatever. Sometimes you need a bit of a strong open door, front door, to actually offer the service. It may be whatever. It's creating, I think, going forward, a bit of a third space, not in home and not in work, a place where perhaps people can go to, feel comfortable in. A number of these, of course, have developed cafes over the years, where you provide a place for people to meet and to relate. I think the hub, the thing I like about it is it has a bit of a brand to it, and I quite like that. And it's a place where the community can find relationship and support. It's also, I think, a very interesting model in wraparound care, where you can very easily help people spiritually. For instance, one of our hub recently in this area opened up into a food grocery, but then as part of the wraparound care, you could tick a box to go on an Alpha course to find out more about Christ. So it provides an easy way spiritually. So it's a generic hub model. I think it's been done for many years by different charities, but I think it's beginning to come more to the fore during this crisis. I think there are probably 3 levels of this, as is important to us. Thanks, Kay, for the next slide. I think there's the standalone hub model, which is something that is run by one charity or one church. And I think this is probably what's been done before. The benefits are it's easier to set up because you've got full control over it, really. The drawbacks is you get a bit isolated. You get a bit isolated from what other churches are doing, and you can get isolated from certainly what the civic authorities are doing. So you can have a church operate a very good service, but actually be pretty unrelated to anything else happening. I think it also lacks strategy and coordination with the body of Christ and other providers. So, but it is what it is, and it's certainly better than not having anything. So it's a standalone model. I think just as an example of this, it's great. The Message, the charity up near us, of course, have been opening community groceries as a standalone hub, and they've been producing some great results. Community groceries, of course, are really taking food banks to another level, much more dignity involved, and much more community, with wraparound services around it. So it's just beginning. Well, community groceries have been going many years, but the Message have been setting these up within churches and very successfully. So it's a standalone model. Secondly, thanks, Kate. I think there's a group hub approach, which is where you team together with other churches to provide services that no one church or charity could provide. So you in a sense brand yourself together, and you become a hub or a group hub, whatever you want to call it. The benefits, of course, is you increase the amount of services you can offer. So you may well have one church who's just absolutely brilliant, runs a fantastic CAP center. You may have another church that runs the community grocery, another church that, I don't know, has fantastic stuff happening with toddlers and working with early years and so on. But you bring them together in a geographical area, then you've got some real benefit. It increases the level of services. It's more strategic, more coordinated. It creates a bit of a support structure for each other. So, we're in this together. Stronger funding possibilities. I think generally funders are going down the line of wanting not so much just to fund individual things, but they want to fund things where people are working together better. I think it's a better expression of the body of Christ. The drawbacks, of course, is it can be longer to set up. It depends what the level of relationships you already have in the area. Some of our unity movements have been working together for many years. Probably it'd be a lot easier for them to set this sort of thing up where there's trust and relationship. Less visibility of your brand. So, if you're this Methodist church or whatever expression of the body of Christ you're coming under perhaps more of a joint brand. So you've got to kind of deal with some of the ego logo issues there. And but if you just keep it, the group hub approach, I think, is within churches. And one of the dangers to that is you can become still isolated from other services. So I think probably what we're going towards now is the third approach, which is a network hub, where you have a team approach with other churches, but also with the VCSE, public services and private sector. And this is what is being developed in some places, certainly in my borough. It has high levels of services because suddenly you're open to everything now. You could have somebody come into your hub. You may just be dealing with a community grocery, but you're so connected now that you can signpost them to a variety of different places. I think it's very strategic, coordinated, increases support structures, stronger funding possibilities. And I think it's more incarnational, actually. I think it's less the Christians doing their own ghetto thing, and it's more about actually being embedded within the community. They are longer to set up, and they may take time to develop, and there's certainly less visibility of your brand in this. So, it's very much a service mentality. Let's just look at a couple of examples of this. Thank you, Kay. Well, since I had a conversation with Steve Prince yesterday about actually, Laura, since we got you on the call, I'm going to get you to talk about Transform Reading and what you've done with the hubs.
Certainly, we're operating, I suppose, in that final slide in the area of now having got together as a group of churches, actually engaging more broadly. We've always engaged locally in the area that we're in with our local Asda superstore. We've always had a good relationship because we offer chaplaincy to the staff team and to the public in their cafe, and we have done over a number of years, and in the local leisure centre. So there have been a number of people from local churches who've been providing that, and also do RE Inspired in local schools. So we've built up really good connections with health, with education, with local businesses as well who are interested in us, with the Rotary Club and other sort of secular charities. So we've got that sense now that we're operating in a field where, even within that, what you're saying, Roger, about brand, which can be really important when you're partnering with a group of churches, is that we feel that the church is really visible, even within that mix and that economy. So we're, and I just wanted, I don't know if Steve shared this story with you, Roger, but we had an example in terms of spiritual ministry, because people might think that being involved with secular organisations, etc., might limit your ability to address the spiritual issues that everybody has. We had an issue this week with an elderly man had a problem with his prescription, didn't live in our area, but had somehow got our number and contacted the hub asking for help to get his prescription. And there was all sorts of issues about getting it. And he was in acute pain. He was swearing and shouting and being really, really difficult. Was in dispute with all the health services that he was engaged with. But members of the hub went to deliver his prescription to where he lived, another part of the town, were able to go in, and it was Steve's wife actually who prayed with him, asked him if she could pray for his pain, and prayed for him. And my husband, who's helping coordinate the hub, had a follow-up conversation with him yesterday, where he was a different man in terms of his demeanour, but he said that this lady had come out and this lady had prayed for him, and something happened, something changed in his life. And I just think we've been sharing that story in our prayer, Transform Reading prayer meeting this morning, just to encourage people to see that all these things are linked and open up so many doors to engagement with people on all levels.
Mm.
So yeah.
You've got 2 hubs set up. Are you hoping to extend those across the town?
We are extending those. We're working on we've got 2 hubs set up. We've got 3 hubs set up now, actually. There's one in Southcote, which may join with the West Reading hub Torch, which was the second one to develop. And I'm currently looking at plans to work with the churches in Caversham. There are about 9 or 10 churches in the north of Reading who have expressed an interest in coming together to look at the hub model.
Right. And what have been the challenges, Laura?
The challenges have been about equality of engagement of all the, I suppose, all the different churches that are involved in the hub and their different perspectives. And also their different resourcing and their capacity, and how to engage people on an equal level to contribute whatever they can contribute. So yeah, just making sure that 2 or 3 churches within the network don't run away with this and leave others behind. That's been a particular challenge, I think. I think for other areas of the town that haven't already got relationships with health services or with businesses or with schools as we have, then just building those up and starting those. But the hub model has high acceptance with local authorities and with the town councils and the local councils as well. It's something that they really favour.
Why do they like it?
Because it's local. So in terms of vote winning and impressing local voters, politicians like it very much. They like to get involved in it because and also they share some of the same values for their community, of course, and they hold the ring for some of these for the concerns about well-being and economic recovery, particularly.
Coming out of the pandemic, more into the recovery phase, you've run this pretty virtually, haven't you, so far? What's going to happen when buildings are open? Will there be one of the buildings, perhaps of a group of churches, which will be the hub, or how do you envisage that working going forward?
Well, we have had buildings open. So some of our buildings, my own church at Trinity has been open. It's been open for prayer during the times that we've been able to do that. And as soon as we've been able to again, this time we've opened again for people to drop in for prayer. And the vision is that whatever the churches can do, whatever the local churches can do, if they are in a position to open up and they're in a locality where that would attract passing trade and people just passing through, then there'll be an encouragement for each of those churches to be to have hub publicity and to be known as a hub church.
Right.
So people could.
They're a member of the hub group, effectively.
Yeah.
And network. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Fantastic. Well, thanks, Laura. That's really helpful. The only other example I had was I've listed here the next slide, which is in Partington, which is in my borough, the poor, by far the poorest part of the borough. And pretty soon in the crisis, we went to 6 hubs, which was a partnership between the housing council, health service, and so on, to respond to the crisis, using the voluntary sector to provide that hub base. And but Partington was by far the forerunner, and they've done a phenomenal job. A couple, Ruth and Andy Lancy, who actually had a play centre. They're business people, but they repurposed their play centre to set up a Hope Centre, and which still carries on today, and it's one of the 6 crisis hubs across the borough. But quite a great example, actually, of the other churches connecting into it, but also the public services absolutely endorsing it, and the whole of the borough now has set its strategy around the 6 hubs going forward. And of those 6, 3 are faith-based, well, Christian. So it's quite interesting, really, that sort of effect that it actually has. So that, folks, just a very quick overview, really, of hub work, because some of you had asked the questions around it, and please, give us any questions you have or any information we can provide. That will be brilliant.